Hey guys, this is Mike here, just providing a short video here in regards to the YouVersion Bible app. A lot of you already utilize this app, and that's great. Some of you probably have not heard of it or have heard of it, but you really haven't thought about using it. So I want to show you just a little bit about the app. It is free, available. You can get it for your desktop computer. You can also get it for your Android or your iOS devices. Right now what I'm going to do is show you what the app looks like on your phone, and I'm using my iOS device right here. But once the app is downloaded, you simply click on the Bible icon and it takes you to the beginning screen. Now, the app has a lot of really nice features. Of some of those, as you notice here on the top, are devotions, as well as verse of the days and other things. But really what I want to show you today is in regards to the events section. The events section is where we actually, as a church, put together an event that highlights a lot of what is involved in our worship service. That includes lyrics for the songs that we sing, as well as shortcuts to other items, and I will show you that. You can find events by going to the very bottom right corner. You'll see where it says More located there. You'll tap on More and you'll be brought to another list, and you'll see there in the very middle is Events. By tapping on Events, it'll bring you to a radius map of what are some potential events going on in your immediate location. Right now, it is showing Antioch Southern as one of the locations of an event, and so it's listing there that we have the next live event on May the 24th. If you'll click on that event, it will take you to the event that we have created. And if you'll notice, there in the event, it has a listing of a lot of pieces of information we think are important for you to know. One, particularly for guests, if you want to connect online, there's details on how you can connect more with our church. There is a link for giving. We have several different options for online giving that you can take advantage of. There's also a link to a live stream for those that would like to watch the service. In addition, there's a link to help you get connected to the video portion. Also, there is a link for downloading the song lyrics for the week. Now, this particular I have not corrected or haven't changed, but typically we will place a link to the week's encouragement video that's listed, and then shortly thereafter there will find all of the listings for this week's sermon notes. This one has not been updated yet, but you will find those sermon notes, combination of sermon notes and scripture references for the sermon. Under each section, you will notice where it says Add Notes. That is where you can click Add Notes, tap on that. Actually, it says you can add notes once the event starts. So that is one of the neat features there. You can save the event in the very top right-hand corner. You see where it says Save. When you save this event, it's easy for you to locate later on, either on the day of the event or afterwards during the week if you want to go back and go back through some of those notes that you may have made or some of the points that were made in the sermon. Now, I'm going to go back and go to a saved event that I had earlier, and I wanted to show you something about the notes. So I'm going to go to a section where it says Notes, and if you tap on the notes, and there's a section there where you can begin to add to or put in your own personal notes. And once you are done with those notes, you can tap Save in the right top corner, and it saves those notes for you. See, there's options there. You can forward a particular item to someone, or you can save it to something else. So once that is saved, again, it is archived for you, and you can go back and look at any of those. The app is a really neat opportunity for folks to be able to connect with the church. You can either use it in person while you're in the service, or you can use it particularly in this time and age when people are taking advantage of our live stream, or during the drive-in worship portion where you're still in your cars. So this is a really neat app that you can use to have not only the Bible, but also the notes and a lot of different other pieces of information right at your fingertip. And I will let you take the advantage of walking through the app to find where you can sign up for devotions. You can sign up for verses of the day, lots of other things. You can sign up with others in a community where you can see things that they have shared, or work together to be involved in a Bible study together. So it's kind of a neat little feature. But that is just the very quick rundown of the YouVersion Bible app. Again, it is available for computer as well as for Android and iOS devices. It's free and it's a wonderful device. I would encourage you to get it so that you can connect with us during our worship time. Hopefully this is helpful for you, and we will see you soon.
Just a reminder that this Sunday, May 31st, will be our first Sunday back in the auditorium. It will look a little differently. Chairs are still in rows, but you'll notice that a row is open, and then there's a row of chairs backed right up to it. And that's so that we can accommodate social distancing. When you're seated, and maybe you're the last person in your family, let there be two chairs between you and somebody else, just so that we are keeping a little bit of social distance. You may say, well, I don't care about that, but there are people that do, and so let's accommodate them. Let's be respectful of their wishes, their thoughts as well. So you'll find things looking a little differently, and want to thank the guys that have redone the media center in the back. It's about 40% larger than it was, and they've got it rearranged a little differently, and so it's going to be allowing them a lot more freedom where they don't feel quite so cramped in there. So you check that out as well when you come. We'll have services at 8 o'clock. We'll have 9:15 Sunday school. All of our classes is going to be open for that. Then we'll have our 10:30 worship service. So, I encourage one thing here at this point, I think, and that is that it would be best if the family would come at the same service and sit together. That'll provide more opportunities for people to be social distanced. All right? Thanks so much. As we come back, noting that we do have different opinions about social distancing, actually physical distancing would be a better term, because we still want people to socialize. But some would prefer quite a bit of physical distance between us. But as we come back, one of the things that we want to remember is what Colossians 4:6 says to us. It says, "Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, to make it palatable, make it where it feels good when you hear it, to make it, like salt makes your food taste a little better." The idea is that let our words make our conversation a little better, feel better, be respectful of others in what we say as we come back together. Some have not been around people hardly at all, and will be amazed that others don't wear masks, that they don't care about the physical distancing. But we need to be respectful there, and let our words be seasoned with salt. Let them be sweet. As he says here in verse 6, let your speech always be with grace. Helen Miroslav, she was a third grade teacher, and she had in class one year a little boy by the name of Mark Eklund. Mark was a chatterbox. She was constantly having to ask him to be quiet. And he was one of those kids that was kind of unusual. He always dressed nice, was very respectful, and he'd always tell her, "Thank you for correcting me." Every time she called him down, that was his response, and he was not being smart aleck about it. And she said, I got used to hearing that a lot of times during the day. Well, one day she was overstepped her normal bounds in what she said, and Mark she'd had to call him down for talking, and she said, "Mark, if you talk out one more time, I'm going to have to tape your mouth shut." Well, about 10 seconds passed, and Chuck said, "Miss Marosla, he's talking again. Mark's talking." So she had to, since she'd done it in front of the class, she had to go over to the tape dispenser and get a couple of strips of tape, and she went back to Mark's desk, and she taped a big old X across his mouth. And she went back to her desk, and she was thinking about that, and she broke out laughing. And the class just fell apart, So she went back down to his desk and took that X off, and guess what he said? "Thank you for correcting me." Well, the year finished. The kids all went on to the 4th grade. But that year was the year that they moved her from teaching the self-contained classroom into teaching 9th grade mathematics. A few years later, guess who showed up in her math class? Yeah, that's right, Mark Eklund. Well, she was going through the math lesson, one week she was working on a particular concept, and it seemed as though the students were not grasping it. They just were having difficulty with it, and they were kind of getting short with each other. So she recognized that if she didn't do something, that this was not going to be a good scene. And so she said, "Okay, everybody take out 2 sheets of paper." So they all did. "Now, I want you to write the name of every student in this classroom right now, and I want you to leave a line between them." So they all did that. She lost the whole class period because the kids were looking around the room and at a certain person, and then they'd write something down. And she took those home that Friday, and Saturday she spent her entire day taking a sheet of paper, for a couple of sheets of paper, I guess, for each student. And she would take the comments that each student had written about this individual one that she was writing, and she wrote all of those comments on there, and she took them back to class that Monday. And Monday the kids said, "I didn't know that anybody thought anything about that." Another one said something to the effect that, "I didn't know anybody liked me that much." And there were lots of positive comments about it. The year finished. Class, I guess, made it through. Several years went by. She came home for vacation one summer, and her folks met her with the news that Mark Eklund had been killed in Vietnam. But the parents wanted her to come to the funeral. So she went to the funeral of her beloved student, and she said she was the last person to pass by his casket. She remembered saying to herself, "I wish I had all the tape in the world to put an X over your mouth." She wanted to hear from Mark one more time, but that was impossible now. They all went out to Chuck's. He'd grown up. He had a restaurant now. They went out to Chuck's farmhouse. And they were all talking and having a great time. And one of the soldiers had gone with them, and he said to the effect something that, "Were you his teacher in math?" And she said, "Yes." And he said, "He talked about you all the time." The students overheard that, and they kind of crowded around, and the mother came over and showed, actually gave to Miss Marosla the compilation of comments about Mark. It was ragged and torn, taped together, and his dad said he carried this in his billfold. And they gave it to her, and she looked at those comments that were made there. Then Chuck's wife said, "Well, I've got mine." And Charlie, he said he had his. Marilyn had hers. Vicki got her purse and pulled it out, all the comments that had been written about her. You see, words that are fitly spoken, words of grace, oftentimes trigger great memories. And that was so in the case of this teacher. She realized what she had been able to accomplish through that, to give these kids something that they could have through life, to help them in dark days when things weren't going well. They could open those 2 pages and see that to somebody else they had great value. Those words, I'm certain, were words of comfort from time to time. Something that Mark Eklund carried in his billfold until the day he died. We need to remember that we too need to speak words of grace, as these students were taught by this godly teacher, to teach and to speak words that are filled with grace. And as we come back to worship together, let our words be filled with grace, seasoned with salt, as Colossians 4:6 tells us. May the Lord bless you today. I'm looking forward to being back together with all of you guys this coming Lord's Day, and I know you are as well. So until then, let's enjoy having the freedom that we have here in our country. And thanks to guys like Mark Eklund who gave their lives. Lord bless you. Have a great day, and I will see you Sunday.